Everybody, what's going on? I hope you guys are having a good day. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I am here with my fiance, Dr. Alicia. How you doing today, babe?
Hey, how you doing? And I am so curious to hear what you have to say about this topic.
Yeah. Derrick Jaxn. It's spelled Jaxn. That's the name apparently. I don't know if it's really Jackson the normal way or if it's Action Jackson or something. But anyway, Derrick Jaxn. He was, I guess, a relationship guru. According to this blogger by the name of Tasha K, who likes to, as she says, get receipts on people, she is claiming that due to phone calls that she had and stuff like that with there's a woman that's kind of stepped forward and said that she believes Derrick Jaxn is a fraud, that was sleeping with her while he was supposedly married, and a lot of people are talking about this because Derrick Jaxn has built a pretty strong brand as kind of a relationship guru.
Okay, so wait, Derrick Jaxn is married.
Yeah, apparently he is. I didn't know he was married.
Now, I do follow him on Facebook. I just thought he was just some single man who's in his early 30s talking about relationships. I never knew that he was married.
Yeah, I guess he is. I didn't know he was married either. Give me a yes or no. First of all, did any of you know about this? Like, did any of you see this? Give me a yes or no if you saw what happened here, or if you even know who Derrick Jaxn is. I think he's intelligent. I mean, he seems like an intelligent brother. I don't know much about him. I never met him. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I mean, some of the things that he says is pretty sound in terms of
Hmm.
like the gold standard of what it should be on relationships. Is pretty sound. And he's kind of a champion for women
Hmm.
based on some of the things that I've seen him say. And it was almost like he portrays himself as this single man who's out there helping people get relationships. Now, it could be that he is just a very private person and just wants, because some people are want to keep their personal life very private, and they just see that this public sort of persona different from their private life, so they definitely don't want to put their stuff out there. So I can respect that, and I just figured maybe he was just one of those individuals.
Yeah, well, somebody brought it to my attention today, and
Mm-hmm.
when I saw it, I honestly wasn't surprised. Because I believe that typically when something appears to be too good to be true, it usually is. I don't think fairy tales are real. I don't believe in fairy tales. I think that, I could here.
Oh, okay.
Well, here's the thing, right? I don't have any issue with Derek at all. I mean, he's a young guy.
Uh-huh.
He's in prime mating age. Like prime mating age for males, where they attract the most women, is usually between maybe 27 and 33. And so basically, he's at his physical peak. I mean, think about it. There's a reason why all these stories in the Bible about Jesus have Jesus going to the age of 32 and then he just magically disappears or he gets crucified on the cross.
Oh,
32 is that age where the women are most attracted to males. Did you know that?
yeah, but Jesus was 33, and it's probably I have
Right.
a metaphysical idea about why it's 33. But
Well, yeah,
anyway,
Well,
we'll go
there's
on.
arguments that Jesus never existed, right?
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
that Jesus is literally created to be a woman's fantasy. That's why you have women. You literally have black women and white women as well that are like in love with Jesus.
Okay.
Like they literally will pass up a real living, breathing man
Uh-huh.
because he's not down with Jesus, and that's just a reality. I'm not dissing it. I'm just saying there are people who make that argument. So my point is to say this: Derrick Jaxn is a smart guy, but women don't just watch him because his advice is really good. If you see some of the pictures that he's put up on social media, those are mating calls. When you take pictures with your muscles bulging out, or you got no shirt on, or your pants are halfway hanging down, like I mean, a lot of it is it becomes what I call emotional porn for women.
Okay, you have a really interesting theory on it, and I'm here to just listen to you talk all about it. So, what is your theory on Derek Jackson
Well,
and this in the
my
general?
theory on Derek is that Derek is a smart dude who knows something about relationships. I'm not going to take that away from him at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
He knows what he's talking about, but he also knows how to say what people want to hear and give them the visuals that they want to see. It's like, and there are women that have this out as well. I've seen some really gorgeous women who give advice on relationships, and they say things men want to hear, and so the men will watch so they can just look at her. They want to look at this beautiful woman saying what they want to hear. Tell them like it's not your fault. Like this is what women need to do. Blah 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 blah, and they'll get hundreds of thousands of followers from that because we
Oh.
enjoy that fantasy. So Derrick is kind of the male version of that, right?
Okay, so you're saying that like he's doing videos with no shirt on and showing off his muscles or whatever. It's kind of like his gimmick to get women. And women do
Um,
that too. Like
I,
even though some of the things that they say is pretty sound, they're
mhm.
just using like a certain image so that they can do what? So that they can get people to buy his
Yeah,
little flashcards
or whatever.
or his okay.
I mean, people.
He's selling sex
Right. Well,
or
I
what?
wouldn't say he's. I'm not gonna debase him in that way
Okay. Okay.
because I respect I respect the brother but it's like everybody in media understands that people like eye candy. It makes them feel good.
Okay.
So if Derrick was some fat ugly dude, sitting there saying the same exact same damn thing, except he's ugly, ain't got no teeth or whatever, you wouldn't have the same followers, right? People like to they like to take things in visually, and it makes them more receptive to other things too, right? So Derrick, and so this is my point on that, right? I didn't have a problem with it because I just kind of said, okay, he's got his thing, it's working for him, good for him. The problem he ran into
Mhm.
is that when you present yourself as this perfect fairy tale,
Mm,
people are going to be waiting in the corners to take your ass down.
I see. I see. So he's working real hard to portray some sort of fairy tale image of
Mhm,
men and women together.
mhm.
And really, lurking underneath that is someone that's just going to like, expose it all.
Yeah, he presents himself as this as this really attractive alpha male who will
Mhm.
suck your toes and tell you that you're beautiful every day and be faithful for all eternity, never look at another woman, and all these other things. When the reality is that, and I'm not saying that's not possible. I'm not saying that there aren't men out there who do that,
Uh-huh.
but I'm saying that that same guy, if he's also taking pictures in front of a million women with his shirt off, it's hard for me. I'm a realist, and it's
Uh-huh.
hard for me to imagine a man that presents that image who's not having vagina thrown at him every day in his inbox by the pound. And that's going to cause some challenges. That's going to cause a conflict between reality and the fantasy.
Oh, I see. Okay. So it's real important to portray variety of different points of views. And he just has his one singular view. Is that what you're saying?
No, no,
Or
no.
is it
I'm
what?
not even dissing Derrick at all. I just think that like there, I saw somebody that put up an image, and they said they would like to see a versus between Derrick Jaxn and Kevin Samuels, right?
Uh-huh.
And I
Uh-huh.
thought that was a good idea. And the reason, well, it's a good idea, but it's
Because
not,
it's two
right?
extreme
Well,
people.
right. It's a good idea, but it's a bad idea. It's a good idea for marketing. It's a bad idea for Black love, because
Hmm.
Black love is not um a gender. It's not supposed to be a gender war.
Okay.
So it's bad for Black love because basically what Derrick Jaxn and Kevin Samuels represent is they represent two extremes of the Black love ideology. Derrick represents the women.
Yeah.
Derrick is the guy who tells women, "You're perfect, you're wonderful the way you are. Men are fucked up, and they need to step up to the plate. They need to grow up. Men need to stop acting like little boys. Men need to stop being hateful. Men need to stop being abusive. Blah 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 blah." Right? And women are like, "Yeah, yeah, take your shirt off, Derrick. We want to hear more. Put that sexy tie on, Derrick. Oh my God, I need a man like a Derrick Jaxn, right?" And then Kevin Samuels, unfortunately, is the guy
He's
who
on the way other
right,
extreme.
Kevin
Yeah.
Samuels is the guy who attracts the attention of a lot of angry men who are
I
frustrated
see.
by the way they've been treated by women. He's the guy who says that you're not a high value woman, you ain't shit, you ain't nothing but a six.
Hmm.
You ain't cute enough to want a man to make six figures. What's wrong with you? Right, right. Like he kind of says those things that a lot of people think, but people can't say it, and it comes out of frustration. It all feeds into a
Wow.
gender war, which I believe white people gave this to us. White
Yeah.
people, I believe, are the ones who taught us to hate each other.
Oh, I
And I
see.
think that you had just have camps. You have camps of bitter women
Hmm.
who think men need to grow up, and you have camps of bitter men who think Black women need to take accountability. And next thing you know, you got this civil war going on. And really, I think the best black love conversations have to meet in the middle.
Yeah.
They have to come from places of compromise. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, there are people who think that if you're compromising with your woman, you are a simp, or they think that if a
Yeah.
woman compromises with a man, that she's some sort of servant and she's engaged in servitude and her standards are low. Like you just letting him get away with anything. Well, shit, fuck. I mean, I'm sorry. It makes me mad,
Yeah, I can
man,
see.
because
Look at
you
you.
can't come together if you don't want to come together. That's
Yeah.
it. If you're demanding, if you're incredibly demanding and you don't compromise and you're not willing to relent on any issue, then you're not built for a relationship.
Yeah, and you're definitely not built for marriage. So if you go all the way to one side of the camp and just say, "Oh, women should always be honored and respected and my queen and all of that," and then you go over to the other side of the camp where it's just like you're a 6 at best or whatever he said, which is like totally ridiculous and absolutely subjective. Someone can be a 10. Everyone can be a 10 in someone's eyes. So both sides of that is just not realistic. And I think what you're saying is that we need to be realistic. We need to say, we need to come in the middle and we need to be realistic and say, listen, love is not enough. There has to be more to relationships than just that. And come to the middle and say, hey men, you need to be more compromising and be a little more flexible.
Well, I agree with you. Now, here's what's interesting. Somebody says,
Hmm.
Boyce, Kevin's platform isn't just for angry men. Just have him on your show. And actually, I did invite Kevin on the show. He didn't want to come on. I don't know why. Andre Hatchett is a friend of his, and Andre told me that Kevin had done a whole video about me. And actually, my introduction to Kevin was quite favorable in the sense that he says a lot of things that I actually agree with because I have a male perspective, and I feel like a lot of things Kevin says I identify more with what Kevin says than what Derrick says. But I also have a responsibility to talk about the fact that I think sometimes, sometimes the commentary feels a little bit harsh, and it's a little bit, it needs to be a little more nuanced in my view.
Hmm.
Meaning that
Hmm.
I have a hard time. Like for example, I have a hard time with this idea that women with kids are just garbage. That like if a woman has children, that's a liability. That you're a simp if you date a woman with kids, or that kids are just these fucking little maggots that you just have to deal with, and and they ruin your life. I don't agree with that. That's not my experience. My
Hmm.
experience is that sometimes women with children are actually a little more capable of caring about someone other than themselves. Sometimes
Hmm.
I mean I've seen real shallow ass women that don't have any kids that think that they're some crown jewel because they don't have children, but
Hmm.
that they've missed it. They've missed the whole picture. They don't understand that what makes you a jewel is not whether you have kids or not. What makes you a jewel is how you conduct yourself as a human being. So I think that when you have conversations where you say women that have kids are of lower value than women who don't, I think that's subjective. Or when you say that attraction is the number one factor in terms of whether or not a woman is high value or not high value, I don't agree with that. Or that having money makes a man automatically high value. I don't agree with that either.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
just think that there's a lot more to talk about. So I don't have an issue per se with where they stand, but I'm telling you, they feed into the gender war.
I see. Okay. So what are your other thoughts about that? I'm real fascinated.
Well, one thing I'll say is this. I would say if I was to give Derrick Jaxn advice, I would give him advice about how you structure your brand and structure your image. I think that if it's very rewarding to present yourself as an image of perfection. The problem is that when you do that,
Hmm.
it makes people throw rocks and people, I saw
Yeah.
Tasha K in her video, and Tasha K, who's very talented at what she does, but she's like a Wendy Williams type person. Tasha was waiting to take him down. Like she was excited, almost orgasmically excited over the fact that she was taking on. She's like, I'm getting this motherfucker. And what she's feeding into is the anger of a lot of women who are
Uh-huh.
angry, maybe at their ex-boyfriend, maybe angry at their daddy. I think it all starts with the daddy, and she's feeding into this whole idea of
Oh.
like we're going to take pleasure in absolutely obliterating this black man. No different from when you see men like I remember that old Dr. Dre video where the girl comes in and she's kind of stuck up and she's real pretty. It's a Snoop Dogg video. Don't don't.
Okay.
Don't. And the girl comes in, she's like kind of a snob and kind of looking down on people. And then somebody poured like milk on her head or threw an egg in her face or whatever. And everybody just kind of laughed. They thought that was funny to like, because you're bringing this snobby girl down, right, and humiliating her. And I think that she was taking pleasure in his humiliation. And I didn't enjoy that. I don't enjoy watching a person take pleasure in humiliating another person. And you could tell she was speaking from a position of pain. Like
Yeah, I could tell. You showed me the video, and I
Mhm.
saw like a little bit of it, and I was just like thrown back by it. Like, why would someone take out their time to do something like that? I never get it.
Well, that's what
I
she
can
does.
never get
Well,
it.
that's how, I mean, she builds her brand from
Okay.
toxic destruction of other people.
Okay. Well, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. It's not something. It doesn't work with me. I would never do that.
Mm.
But that's
Well,
okay. If that's what you
I mean,
want to
it's fine.
do.
It's life. It's the internet, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what the
That's
internet's
how it
all about,
is.
right? But at the same time, it doesn't. I think I saw on Derrick's Twitter. He doesn't really comment much on Twitter. I guess he does most of his stuff on Facebook. And I saw he said he was going to address the issue, and he called it fake news.
Fake news.
Now,
Okay.
and is it fake or I don't know. I don't even know if that's really the big. I feel like that's more personal between him and his wife. But I do think also that when you're talking about presenting that perfect image, this is how Tiger Woods and Bill Cosby got taken down. They
Yeah.
presented an image that was so perfect, so self-righteous, that
Yeah.
when they got caught being human, their brands just crumbled.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes
So you
sense.
got to be careful about about letting people believe that you are the answer to their prayers, that you're the perfect thing. Even myself, when I talk to people, I try my hardest to remind people that I am fucked up, so that when you find out that I'm
But
fucked up.
hold on, you
So,
are not fucked up. Don't
well,
say
I'm not
that.
fucked up, but you know what? I'm human, and I don't want you to think
Okay.
I'm perfect. I'm not better than you. I don't want to be better than you.
Okay.
I don't. You take me off that pedestal right now. I know a lot of stuff, right? Like, I'm not a stupid person, but I'm not out here trying to be Jesus.
Okay. Well, I mean, for sure. I mean, hopefully, our relationship is not 100% perfect. It's about 95% perfect.
Yes,
I
yeah.
would say
I would say
95%
I would say
perfect.
93.2%.
Oh, you went down. Wait, we went down to a 93.
We got a tough 7%. We got we got that last 7% we got to work on.
Let me tell you, that 7%. I want to throw something at
Ooh,
you, but
Lord.
I respect you too much to throw something. But I'll stare at you real funny.
Yeah. Well, what works with us is what helps a lot is that friendship piece. The fact
Hmm.
that like you're really my friend, and it's like even when we have our roughest days, I appreciate the fact that you'll come down and you'll talk to me, and
Yeah.
you'll be like, "What's wrong, boys?" And I actually I appreciate that.
You like when I do that because I'm like, I'm not chasing behind him. Forget him.
Yeah,
Dude,
well, that's what right. That's the thing. Like ego is just bad for a relationship. Like when you go into a relationship, being
Yeah.
like, well, I got standards. If you are beneath my standards, then I'm gonna be done with you. I don't know if that's gonna work so well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you have to let go. Like so like when you make points. Like think about the most recent challenge we had. When you made certain points, I was like, in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, she's right, boys. And I'll be like, damn, I do not want to tell her she's right because I'll be surrendering,
Aw.
and I was like, okay, you're right. You did make a good point with that.
And when you said I made a good point, I was sitting there like, does he really mean that, or is he just saying that so we can just stop?
Yeah, yeah, it's hard. It's really
But I
hard.
think the point of it is that, we definitely have, you give it a 90 to 93%. Okay, 93%. We got really good stuff going and a good foundation. But there is that 7%. And I think like, you know, other relationship, people can relate to that a little better. People can relate to that when things are going pretty good, but then there's some bumps in the road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think the whole thing with, you know,
And I think that's why Derrick Jaxn gets on people's nerves. A lot of people feel very strongly about him, negatively or positively. Like some people really get irritated by him,
well,
you
he's
know?
young. He's 31, right?
Hmm.
So I think, I know when I was 31, I made a lot of mistakes, and I think it would be wrong to just act like he's a worthless piece of crap and that he has nothing of value to add to the world because of this. I don't agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is important to kind of call things for what they are, and to kind of say I feel like, yeah, there's so many setups here. There's so many angles on this. Like for example, I think about this young lady that felt the need to go and tear him down.
Yeah.
And if I were giving him advice, I would probably tell him, look, I'm not going to judge how you live your life, but when you talk about who you let into your circle, when you are a public figure, you have to be thoughtful about who you let into your circle. And so I don't know how deep it is. So again, so you've got your social media page. Your wife is not on the page. Like
I've
I
never seen her anywhere.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's very tempting. It's like when you're the pastor of a church and you're a single man.
Mm-hmm.
The temptation is everywhere. The women admire you almost like a god. Fame and power and money are the ultimate drug, especially for men. And you really have to know how to balance that shit. You got to know that, like, sometimes that the alcoholic cannot spend too much time in the bar.
Get off the bar. Come on out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you do. And so you
Yeah.
get women. I mean, and let's just be clear, women play a part in this too. I know they want to play the whole like innocent victim, like, oh, he manipulated me, blah blah. No, women are grown. Women are intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
Women are capable of making decisions. And my view on it is that that girl knew what she was doing when she laid down with him. And also, you violated, I believe, an important ethic of relationships. You kiss and tell. I don't see a lot of men running around talking about, oh yeah, I slept with this lady, let me tell you what happened, let me tell you how she
Mm.
manipulated me and got me into the bed. Men aren't allowed to do that, and I don't think it's appropriate for women to do that either. I think that whatever you choose to do with
Mm-hmm.
another grown person in the bedroom, that should be between y'all two. So to me, her behavior, um it's a problem, but I also think for him, it would be a matter of me explaining to him, like, look, man, when you get out here and you're making all this money and you're out here telling women what they want to hear, there are women that are literally literally getting sexually aroused
Just by looking at his
listening to you talk.
videos.
Yeah, I've I've,
Mm-hmm.
I've actually run into that. The women I don't attract women from my big muscles. Like, I ain't got none of those. But what I tend to attract are women who are what they call sapiosexuals.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not a stupid man. I'm a pretty smart guy, and I've had women who shockingly were just almost like aroused by money, power, fame, and intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
when you see that happen, you got to make a decision. You got to decide. Like, I don't judge what people do in their sex life, but you got to decide. Okay, if I go and lay down with this lady, you know, I could lose everything. I mean, in
Yeah.
addition to my relationship, you can lose your everything you work for.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you lay down with a predator, with somebody who maybe has daddy issues, who's bitter at men already, who where you've presented yourself as the fantasy, there's nothing scarier than an easily triggered person who has watched their fantasy crumble right before their eyes.
Mm.
They get to the because at that point they
Mm-hmm.
see themselves as the victim, and when somebody sees themselves as a victim, that's when they open the door to become the ultimate predator.
Or what they might see is that they might see something that isn't there. They may get the impression that there's more going on in the relationship than there really is. It's just like it's more,
Mm,
you're making it out to be more than what it is. Lady, pipe down. It's not all of that.
that's a good
They're
point
taking
too.
it and going too far, and then when reality hits them, oh, I thought I was his woman and you
Mm,
really weren't. Then you get
mm,
really upset and you go and you try to tear him down because it's like, I can't have him. If you can't have him the way you want to have him, like, there's some women who just want to have you. I want you
mhm,
every day. I want you here with me all the time. And they want to have you and they cannot have you. They can become frustrated and try to take you
mm.
down.
Right,
If I
right.
can't have him, nobody gonna have him,
Yeah, and
you
I
know?
kind of think that that energy, that whole "I'm gonna destroy you" energy,
Mm-hmm.
is just bad energy.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
um, and I think that's good advice for people in terms of dealing with breakups. Sometimes they just don't want you. You know, sometimes, I mean, you get disappointed, like just like with
Mhm.
men. Like it's like those men, those men are like, baby, please, baby, you look, girl, you look good, da da da. And then when you tell him that that you're not interested, he's like, oh, go on somewhere, you
Yeah,
raggedy bitch,
forget you.
right?
It's like
Yeah,
I was just beautiful 5 seconds ago.
right.
What happened?
But now I'm a raggedy bitch, and all, and it's just kind of like no, there's other fish in the sea, and I think that how you process relationship disappointments speaks a lot to you about you
Mm.
as a person. And I encourage anybody, if you're checking somebody out and thinking about having a relationship with them, don't just look at how they act when they're happy and they're getting what they want. Look at
Mhm.
how they deal with disappointment.
Yeah.
How did you deal with your ex when your ex dumped you? What did you do? Did you go to his house and cut his tires and bust out his windows,
Scratch his car.
or
Yeah.
did you accept what happened and move on with your life?
Mhm.
That tells you everything about how they're going to deal with you if
Mhm.
they don't get what they want. Because some people out here that are claiming to be victims are really just people who asked for something and didn't get it, and they're pissed.
Yeah, the end of a relationship, why does it have to always be dramatic and loud
Yeah,
and just ends, I'm throwing your stuff out in the street? Like, why does it have to end like that? It doesn't have to. It
yeah.
could be amicable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's such a thing as like just packing your shit and walking away. I remember one time, no, I'm not saying not too long, but it was a while back. I dated a lady that I really liked, and I thought we had a relationship. And one day she just came home and was like, "I don't want to do this anymore." I was like, "You don't want to do what
She just
anymore?"
dumped you out of the
Yeah,
blue?
I thought I was like, "What? You don't want, like you don't want to watch the show anymore?" Like I was confused. Like, what do you mean? What you don't want to do what anymore? She's like, this relationship. And I honestly, and when I look back on it, she had this is a mistake that people make, is like you should never date somebody who's on a rebound. So she was on a rebound. She had just broken
Oh.
up with her ex, and I really believe in hindsight that she had been just kind of talking to her ex, because you know how people start doing real mysterious stuff. And you're like, why? Normally they eat the chicken with their left hand, but now they eat
Changing it up.
right,
Okay.
right. And so she was doing a bunch of mysterious stuff, and next thing you know, she was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I really believe she was talking to her ex, and was
Mhm.
reconsidering our thing. And I was pissed. I was like, damn, I didn't do anything wrong. And here's the crazy part. I told
You
her,
might have done something wrong though,
maybe I
Boyce.
did, but so let me tell you what happened. So
Uh-huh.
so then I said, okay, well, all right, well, this I had gone to visit her, and I didn't have my car. And I said, okay, well, just tomorrow, I'll get on a plane, I'll go home. And she's like, no, I want you to leave today. And I said, okay. I said, all right, well, give me a ride to the airport and I'll go get our airport hotel. She said, no, you can take a cab.
Oh, you did something to her,
I
Boyce.
probably did, but at the same time, I thought that was just the most
It
ratchet
was
ass
tacky.
behavior.
And you could have gone off. What
I
did you
could
now?
have.
How did you take it? What did you do?
You know what I did? I was really angry at first. I was like, this is not fair. I didn't do anything to cause this, or whatever. I was really mad. But then I calmed myself down and I said, she doesn't owe you a relationship.
Okay.
She doesn't owe you anything. Move on with your life, and the sooner you figure out that there's more fish in the sea, the better off you'll be. So I think I kind of surprised her, because I kind of, after I calmed down, I went over to her as I was waiting for my cab, and I gave her a kiss on the forehead, and I said, I wish you the very best, and I appreciate the time that we had together, and you're a beautiful woman, and thank you for a wonderful experience.
Oh, see, that's what you do. That
Yeah.
was the right thing to do.
And I got in the cab, and I really, now that I'm really thinking about it, I think that she kind of was confused, because I think that she thought I was gonna be like, "What the fuck?
Oh, she
You
was
better."
nervous.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
thought,
and then and I remember I got in the cab. She was like looking out the window and just kind of watching me drive away, and and I just moved on. I spent the whole week reading articles on how to get over breakups and how to heal and how to pick the right partner and all that.
mm-hmm,
That's why I learned, while I was reading, that you should never date somebody that's on the rebound, because when a person's on the rebound,
mm-hmm.
they're comparing you to their ex. That's why
Oh, the comparison's never good. Yeah.
right, right. So they don't even know, even they don't know what they want.
Mm-hmm.
They just know what they've been craving, because they've had a deficiency in that particular area.
Mm-hmm.
So then maybe 6 months in, they start realizing, like, they start comparing you to the world and realizing you're not the best fit. And next thing you get a disappointment. So I just really think that people should. So even though Derrick might have messed up, and I think Derrick made some mistakes. I think
Mm-hmm.
a guy like him that has a lot to lose has to be really careful about who he keeps his company with. And I think that maybe shifting the brand a little bit and making it more relationship friendly. Like bring your wife in there.
Yeah, I'd like. Yeah. Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, well, ladies got to understand that a man's decision to put you on his social media is a signal. It
Oh.
says something. It really says something. Like I don't care. I'm sorry. I know people are like, well, I want to keep her privacy, blah 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 blah. Yeah, but it says a lot when a man goes to the world and says, "This is my woman," as opposed to him dealing with you, in a way where people don't know what's going on, because it's like he's saying to all these other women, like, "I'm spoken for."
Mm-hmm.
And so for Derrick to do what he does, and you're taking pictures with your shirt off that are going to be seductive. Women are going to hit you in your DM when they see those pictures. They always present themselves as like, I just need help on a problem, I have a relationship issue, can you give me a call? Like, I've seen it all. I've seen it.
Is that what women do to you, boys? Do they like
I've
hit
had it
you up
I've
and
had it
say, "Oh, Dr. Watkins, I need financial advice"? Do
Yeah,
they do that?
literally, yes.
That is hilarious.
Yes, yes. And believe me, when I was younger and single, it was like, oh,
Hey,
okay.
okay, I'll
I
give you
think,
some
right.
financial advice.
Okay, I think the doctor might be making a house call. Right? Like,
That is
like
funny.
we're all human. We're all human, and there's nothing wrong with being human, right? And as long as it's within the bounds of decent behavior, there's nothing wrong with that. Ain't nobody getting hurt. When grown-ups get together, and we try to pretend like everybody's supposed to be, prim and proper and perfect, but that's not reality.
Mm-hmm.
Sex is powerful. Human beings are created from sex. So that attraction is always there, whether we want to act like it's there or not. So, but I think that with a guy in his position, there's just a certain amount of discretion you got to have in terms of being careful.
So
But
he's just slipping. He
yeah,
needs
I
there's
think
something.
well, he's young though, right?
Okay.
So I want to give him a lot of leeway. But yeah, you get got caught slipping. Most powerful men who get brought down
Mm-hmm.
usually get brought down because they're hooking up with the wrong chick.
I see. So they have to be careful.
Yeah,
Careful who's around you.
yeah,
That's your advice to him.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, there's some women I won't even have a conversation with. Like,
That's
I
true.
won't even I
That
won't
is
even
so true.
yeah, I won't even get on the phone with you for 10 minutes. I'll let my people talk to you, because the thing is, when they touch you, even if they talk to you for 5 minutes,
They're
they
gonna walk away thinking that conversation was way more than what it was.
they
So
could, or they just got a story they can tell. And what happens when
ah.
you're a black man is that people can just make shit up about you, and people will believe it because you're a black man. So, like, somebody could talk to me on the phone, and if they talk to me for 5 minutes, now they got a Boyce Watkins story. Now they can say, yeah, when I was talking to Dr. Boyce Watkins, this is what happened. Or I got a sense that he said he asked me what I had for lunch, but I really think that he was asking me, what kind of panties I got on.
Oh
You know what I mean?
goodness.
Like you have people
Oh my, that is really
that'll do
something.
that. Like, they'll take some little shit you said, and it might be a situation.
Innocent.
Yeah,
And they'll take
it
it.
might be a situation where they're asking you for money. They're like, I want you to sponsor this or pay for this or whatever, and you're like, no, thank you. And then because they're pissed off they didn't get what they want, they then go and shape the story into whatever they want it to
Oh,
be.
and attack you.
Yeah, yeah, and I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, you have.
I've had people that I've really helped and tried to be nice to, who decided, okay, now I got a Boyce Watkins story. Now I'm important because he was talking to me. Now I'm gonna go and make it into this big thing because everybody believes you when you say that a black man somehow manipulated me, stole from me, was a predator toward me, raped me, whatever. And nobody hears that. Nobody hears that, but a lot of brothers understand this. And so I think with Derrick, I think that's the biggest challenge with the whole, the whole infidelity thing. I'm not really I don't morally judge what people do
I
sexually.
mean, well, the infidelity thing, I mean, his wife should be concerned about it. I'm not concerned. That's between him and his wife,
Yeah.
whoever this mysterious lady is.
Yeah, that's between him and his wife.
Yeah.
And and that part is their thing. I'm talking about just from a strategic standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
Men, we're taught to chase women. And I think that that's a natural instinct, but that's also an instinct that you got to be able to monitor and cater, and be careful with,
Mm-hmm.
because it can put you in a lot of unfortunate situations. Like Ice Cube. This is why me and Ice Cube were real cool. Like, I like Cube a lot. This is why I like Ice Cube. And we really talk like we've known each other our whole life. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the reason that we get each other is because he's a strategic man. I'm a strategic man. We're about the same age. And he had a song a long time ago that everybody should go listen to. It's called Ass Over Cash. And
Okay.
what he's basically saying in the song is, if you're a man who doesn't have sexual discipline, somebody's going to take you down.
Ah,
You know,
okay.
so like if you're a dope dealer and you're running the biggest drug enterprise in all of Chicago, then if your rival drug dealer wants to kill you, and they know that you are a sucker for women with big booties and that you'll let your guard down, well, that's what they're gonna get a girl with a big booty and put her in front of you and get you to let your guard down so they can take you down, take you
Oh,
out.
they figure out what you like and then they put that in front of you and use
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
COINTELPRO. If COINTELPRO
Oh
wants to,
yeah.
get certain men, they just put a pretty girl next to him and he'll start telling all the secrets and shit. But
Yeah. Well,
I
you know those little hookers, they all work for the CIA.
Yeah, that is true. Oh, and the Russians are really good with that. The Russians train
Yeah.
like bands of hookers
Oh
to
yeah.
get in bed with politicians
Oh
and get
yeah.
all these secrets. Yeah, like men gotta understand, like they're watching you, and if you allow that to be your vulnerability, because you're like, oh well, she's just a pretty girl, I can just let it all hang out. Next thing you know, she'll be the one that's taking you down. Look at Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky.
Oh yeah.
You know,
She whiz.
yeah, so that's
Hmm.
so I like that song because it was like, yeah, you got to be smart and strategic. So when you're protecting an empire, it's not even about judging someone's choices and behavior. It's more so about the fact that you have to be thoughtful and strategic. So I feel like with Derrick, um, you know, did he make mistakes? Yeah, it sounds like he did. I'm sure he's gonna have a way to explain it away, and there are gonna be people that are gonna believe him no matter what.
Well, he said fake news. So I mean that's quite possible.
It could be fake news. That's true.
Hmm.
It could be, or it could be true.
It could be true.
Right?
Hmm.
Like the lady's story might be accurate and relevant, but
Or it could be partly accurate and she just embellished, you
yeah,
know.
I just see a lot of bad actors in a process where um he opened the door for them to attack and they're attacking. And it's feeding into this unfortunate viciousness where people love to take people down, especially
Hmm.
black men. Like they love to, put a black man in his place and break him down and emasculate him in front of the world. And I don't like that energy.
Mm. Okay, very interesting. Did you have anything else about the Derrick Jaxn, or just inspired by the Derrick Jaxn story?
Um, no, that's it. I think advice for ladies is like if you
Advice for ladies, what would that
yeah,
be?
yeah, I think it means something if a man is willing to share a picture of you two together on social media. Same thing for the women too. Like if you got a woman, you know what? I don't know if I could marry a woman who had pictures of herself on her page and her baby, but never put pictures of us as a family. I'll be like, what is happening here? So either you're doing what men do, like you don't want people to know that you're taken, or you're so preoccupied in being this independent woman who does it all by herself that you can't show respect to me as your man. Like I would be concerned about that as a man, but I think also flipping it, it's a signal when a man puts a woman out there, especially a man who's prominent, who's in front of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people,
Hmm.
like a Derrick Jaxn. you know, when he puts that woman out there, he's really kind of telling other women like, okay, back off. Like a lot of women show respect when they engage with me because they see you. Like
Okay,
they'll go out of their way to say, tell Dr. Alicia I said hi.
that's right. That's what they do.
Yeah, they do because they want to make it clear, like, hey,
I'm not interested in you like that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
But here's the
that's respect. I like that. I like women who do that.
Yeah, and the thing is that men don't do that for every woman.
Uh huh.
At least men who have big platforms, right? Like I have a few 100,000 people that follow me, and I can tell you,
Hmm.
um, I'd never put a woman on my Facebook page with, as my significant other that I can recall.
Really?
And I've had relationships, I've dated and all that. And it wasn't anything against like that person I might have been dating at the time. It was more so to say that I'm saving the space. Almost like when you talk about people saving themselves
Aw.
for marriage or whatever. Like I save myself. And the only two women that I've actually really been very public with were you and a woman I proposed to
Oh, that's right.
15 years ago on the Wendy Williams show, maybe 14 years ago. Yeah, we didn't get married, but I brought her on Wendy's show and I proposed to her on Wendy's show because I wanted all the women listening to Wendy's show to
Hmm.
know that this is the woman I chose. And in a way it's not done to insult other women. It's a way to actually manage your own temptation as a man.
Mm.
I think when people are just throwing things at you and making it easy for you, like a
Hmm.
lot of women will make it very easy for a man to do things that are going to cause him problems.
Yeah. Now
So
there are some women who don't care. Like you can put my picture up
mhm.
every day, and there's some women to be like, forget that picture. I'm still gonna I'm gonna make my move.
That's true. That's true too. There are women out there like
They're
that.
bold.
In fact, I've actually heard that there are women who are more attracted to you when you commit.
Ah, okay.
Have y'all heard anything like that? Give me a yes or
Uh-huh.
no if you are saying where there are women that are more attracted because you committed.
Mm.
Um, and all I can say is, what makes it easy. What made it easy for me was that even the women who think that way are usually not super aggressive. They're not like men.
They're subtle, more
Like
so.
a lot of men will tell you like, "Hey, girl, I want to," whatever. Whereas a lot of women will just send you little subtle hints. You know,
Mhm.
and if you just kind of like are oblivious to hints, like I never even noticed. I can't really pick up on hints. I can't tell the difference. Then
You
it's
can't
not.
tell.
Yeah, it's not an issue. Now, but overall, yeah. I mean, I think that most women though are decent enough that they're gonna back off a little bit if they think that you're spoken for, and that makes it easier. So I personally think with Derrick, if I was to give him advice on how to shift his platform, I would say, okay, maybe maybe some more conversations with your wife are necessary. Maybe you have to make that transition from the young, sexy man who's giving advice to the married man who's giving
Hmm.
advice. Like
It
that's
would come across differently if he would have just portrayed himself as accurate. He's not portraying himself accurately. And to me, that makes me wonder. It really does, seriously.
well,
You know.
remember he's young though.
Okay.
He's got some
Okay.
stuff to learn, and I would say, is it inaccurate? I do agree with that, right? Like I
Hmm.
just don't believe in fantasies and fucking
Me
fairy tales.
either. I don't believe in it at all.
Yeah, yeah, I hate presenting like, oh,
We are
relationships are
so perfect.
right, and
Everything
they're
is
supposed
so
to and they're
great.
supposed to be like
It's like,
this, and,
please.
and the person who loves you is supposed to do that. No,
Uh-uh.
I don't think real relationships work like that.
It
You know,
doesn't.
yeah, it's like much scrappier than the fantasy is. Like, like how do you stop from killing that person?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Don't throw a shoe.
right? Like, don't throw the shoe. Like, talk to them instead. And I think that would be like, I think more beneficial to people, because I think that when you keep feeding people fairy tales, you get them to a place where they are spending their lives chasing something that doesn't really exist.
Yeah, and no matter what people who are listening, no matter what your particular situation is, you're not unique. There's a lot of people struggling with a lot of relationship issues, a variety of relationship issues, and you're not alone. Everybody struggles with something. Everybody, every couple you ever see, they struggle with something.
Hmm.
It's something.
Well, relationships are hard.
And I think like relationships are hard and it takes a lot of work. That's the reality of it. It
Hmm.
takes a lot of work and it requires you to stretch and grow
Yeah,
in ways where sometimes it's painful.
that's true. That is true. I think a lot of times we feel like, like, if you love me, you'll love me for exactly who I am.
Well,
And
in a way that's true, but it's hard to do. It is
hmm
very difficult to love somebody just the way they are, and successful couples can do it.
well, the question is, what happens when you run into situations where you have to compromise, where
You
you
do.
can't, I can't do exactly what I want to do, and you can't do exactly what you want to do,
Exactly.
and still make this thing work.
So
Um,
you have to be flexible. You really need to be flexible, and you do need to be willing to compromise. You have to be willing to be moved by somebody's words. Like if you tell me an experience, I have to be able to hear that and say, you know what? Let me change. But you
mm,
can't force somebody to change. You can persuade them to, you know. And then at the same time, how much do you change? You don't want to change yourself so much that you lose yourself. So it's a delicate dance and it's always something happening. Something's going on.
that's true. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. There's always a challenge,
Yeah.
but yeah, but I wish them all the best.
And in the end, you want to be closer to the other person. You want to be closer to your partner.
Yeah.
You want, and hopefully Derrick Jaxn, if he is married, I'm surprised he's married, but maybe this situation will get he and his wife to talk about some things and then maybe they can resolve it because it's not a deal breaker. this situation with Derrick Jaxn shouldn't be a deal breaker for his marriage. They should be able to come out on the other side of this much better.
And it's not a deal breaker for his brand either. Like
Right.
I think he's gonna be fine. His business is gonna do fine. And I think though maybe this might be a cue to kind of shift to a more mature brand.
Yes.
Like because the internet is just filled with flashy shit, and everybody's into flashy shit. And I'm not a fan of any of that. I'm shallow. Shallow does not impress me.
Mm-hmm.
So every image you're putting out there, sure, we know sex sells. We know that that people are gonna love somebody saying what they want to hear while he's talking with his shirt off. Put your goddamn shirt on, man. Like just
he knows what he's doing when he's taking that shirt
right,
off.
right. There's also something cool about being. To me, I think there's something honorable about being the guy who's driving the kids to school in the minivan. Who's talking about how much he loves that black woman that's next to him. Like I think that's okay too. And I just think that this like this single culture, and I get it because we all like the sex side of everything, the fast, easy relationship side of everything. Same reason we like soul food and candy. People
Mm-hmm.
like things that feel good and look good and just, it tastes good and everything else. And it's just like, but that's not really the way you get the long-term wins. It's like investing. When I'm talking about investing, I'm talking about long-term wealth, generational wealth, building something that's strong and stable and lasting. And I'm hearing people talking about quick flips. Or buy this option. Or I put money on. I bet on this stock and I won that. And you're using gambling terminology to talk about investing. Well, that's kind of how relationship conversations happen. You got the gurus that'll talk about relationships, and then you've got stuff where people are talking about quick flips. Like we gonna hook up, have cuffing season, get together this fall, and be broke up by the spring, and I'm gonna be a baby mama or a baby daddy, and then I'm gonna spend my time bitching and complaining on the platform about how horrible women are because of what my baby mama's doing, or how terrible men are because I'm bitter about the last jump off that I got with. And I think that that's fine, but that's like a kind of a young thing.
Yeah, well, long-term marriages, people in long-term marriages have the best sex. Like they have better sex than just at the beginning or just the quick flip. So single men, I mean, it's been a study done on that. Single men, they survey single men. I don't know if it's the same for women, but single men and cohabitating men versus married men. Married men have better sex than single
Okay,
men.
I'm
More
not
satisfying.
I'm not going to doubt that. I'm not going to doubt that because I have not seen the study.
I'll show you the study. I'll send it
And
to you.
I don't know.
Because men do far better being married than unmarried. Actually, marriage benefits men more than it does women.
Well,
That's a fact.
I'm not going to speak for every person, and I can't do that.
Well, I'm talking
Right,
about in general. I'm
right,
making general.
right, and I'm not judging that one way or the other. What I will say is that you know I think there's differences in perspectives that can occur between men and women. So for example, I've heard women say that marriage makes them feel freer. Like if you're in marriage, you should feel freer because you can do more things sexually and you feel comfortable doing that. But I have heard a lot of my male friends say that they don't feel freer in marriage. They feel freer being single. And I think it really,
Okay, so
you know what it really comes down to? A lot of it comes down to options. Options. Men who have lots of options, um, being single can be a lot of fun. And I'm gonna tell you when I made my decision to commit, it wasn't like I was walking away from some terrible life. I was walking away from a life where I couldn't beat him off with a stick.
What?
So
You couldn't beat him off with a stick?
yeah, well,
Boyce?
because when you have money and fame and free time, you get a lot of choices. You get a lot of,
Okay.
attractive women that are, like really the black woman, unfortunately, is the most single woman in America. She's the least likely to be married. So there are lots of highly intelligent, gorgeous black women who will let a man, if a man feeds the fantasy, that's the danger of fantasies. If the man appears to be feeding the fantasy, like she meets that guy who's the doctor, or or the celebrity or the millionaire, and he comes off as a nice guy, then that fantasy can drive her to let down the gate in
Mm-hmm.
situations where maybe she shouldn't, based on what
Okay.
she's looking for. I don't know, but I mean, again, but if you're looking for just something quick and simple, then it's not a problem. But if you're like looking and you're thinking, okay, I just met this Derrick Jaxn kind of guy, this big muscular man who's telling me all the things I want to hear. He's my perfect guy.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be careful, because there's a whole lot of women typically behind the curtain who also came to the same conclusion when they met him too. And it's not like you're talking about a couple of people. You're talking about, if you're talking about a guy who's traveling around the world,
Mm-hmm.
making lots of money, speaking to large crowds of women, he's meeting 5 women a day. So if that man has not made a clear decision to let all of that go in exchange for you, there's a good chance you're going to be disappointed. So you
Mm-hmm.
just got to kind of really check behind the walls real good to make sure that the coast is clear, because some of these men that appear to be your dream man are not even available to you on that level. They're available to you in a certain way, but not available to you in an exclusive fashion.
Oh, you're talking about exclusivity. You're talking about it's just me and you. We're just dating each other one on one. I don't know if men like that um, make that sort of commitment to women to
Well,
say it's just me and you exclusively. I want to get back to my
mm,
my study on marriage, how marriage benefits men. Because as you were talking, I just remembered married men make more money. They make more
mhm.
money. Married men, they are much happier. I'm talking about just in general, happier than non-married men. Because so they surveyed married men, they surveyed non-married men. The married men had higher scores on happiness. The married men had higher satisfaction in the bedroom. The married men made more money, and the married men had better mental health. And the men who were married, the fifth thing was, oh, they had better physical health. Those are the five items. And so what the article said, now the article's coming back to me. What the article said was that it's a myth. So they were saying that a lot of men, so when they surveyed men, what do you think, what do you think the benefits of marriage are for men? A lot of men kind of felt like, oh no, if I get married, I'm giving up my freedom, I'm giving up all of this. Like they have this perception of marriage where in reality that isn't what was happening. And the name of the article was Marriage Myth. It was on Science Daily. That's where I found the article. But guess what? It's not the same way for women.
Mm.
Women
Well,
don't do
I,
as
I
good
think some of that comes.
being married
I
than
think some of
men.
that comes down to the fantasy. I think, yeah,
Exactly.
if you grew up with a fantasy that your wedding day was going to be out of a
Yes.
Cinderella movie, and that your marriage will be perfect all the time, and you're not ready. I mean, really, it's like, what's your durability? Like, can you stand the rain?
Yeah.
And if you can't stand the rain, then you probably shouldn't get married. And I also to your point, I think marriage. I see marriage and being married to being single almost like saying, is it better to live in a warm state or a cold state? Some people like the cold. Some people don't like to be too hot. Some people don't want to be cold. And also, it depends whether you enjoy the heat or the cold. Depends on what kind of house you live in. If you ain't
Hmm.
got no heat in the house and it's cold, then you're gonna freeze, so you'll be miserable. Or if you're out in the sun and you have no air condition, right? So what I would see, the way I see marriage and being single is, there's pros and cons to both, and the question of whether or not you can find your bliss comes down to how well have you maximized the pros and minimized the cons. So with being single, I was very happy single. I'm very happy in a relationship. I don't know if I'd be happy in a relationship with any woman, because I've been in other relationships where I wasn't happy, right? So the quality of the person you're in a relationship with makes a big difference in whether or not you're happy. So there's no unconditional statement
Yeah,
about.
and that is true. So I kind of feel like if you're just a miserable person, you're going to be miserable married. And that is
Hmm.
another thing that the
Yeah.
study came up with. Like, experience of depression and sadness. If you're just a sad person and you just struggle in general, you're going to struggle everywhere. You're going to hate your job. You're going to hate dating. No one's going to want to be around you. So it really is you. And remember, I made that statement like, marriage is not the problem. It's the people in the marriage that's the problem.
I
It's
can
the
see
people
that.
that just ruin it with their little
Yeah,
sadness.
yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
And I think it's like I guess in a way, as a man, I always saw being single versus being married almost like the difference between living out in the woods and having lots of territory you could go to, but there's no like restaurants, and you have to be able to hunt and kill your own food, and
And you're dirty and you're
right,
muddy
and you could
and
get
you're
dirty and
cold.
muddy, right, whereas marriage is like being in a nice warm comfortable house, but you have to stay inside the house, right? And so, the benefits of marriage or the benefits of relationships I found is you have stability and security, meaning, and you're
Hmm.
and you and then also you're able to build. You got a foundation. You're building legacy, and you've
Hmm.
got, you're almost creating an institution. That's why I think marriage and relationships are more um, of a vehicle for older people. Like the older you get, the more you see the value of that. Like okay, I don't want to be a player no more, right? Like, so now you're like, okay, now I want to have one consistent person so that everybody around me is seeing consistency. My children are getting consistency. My family sees me and my institution as an asset to what we're doing. The community, I'm a stable member of the community. Also, I'm eating good food every day. I've got this person next to me. There's consistency there, and there's value in that. Whereas, and I think being single, the benefit though was that, if some shit gets on your nerves, you ain't got to deal with it. Like you can just kind of let it go and be like, look, I'm not calling you anymore because I'm gonna call this other person now, or we're gonna move on. So I think that flexibility
Hmm.
is valuable too in certain situations.
Yeah, and you know what? I think though, for men in particular and women, I think it's just so much better when you're around people. It's so much better to say my wife than to say my girlfriend. It's just
Well,
something about
well,
like
that
it's
yeah.
almost like if you just say, "Oh, my wife, me and my wife did this," or "Me and my wife did this," or or even just to have a wedding ring on, like a wedding band on, like just to be able to present yourself as a married person. It helps a lot of men in business. It
Well,
helps a lot of men because it just sounds better to say my wife than to say, "Oh, my girlfriend." And people are looking at you like you 50 years old, you still got girlfriends. It's just like grow up and get a wife. It's just like, so I don't know. I think like people just look at you differently when they see that you're someone who's made that commitment to get a wife. To
mm,
be married is so much different than, oh, this chick I'm dating, or this, it just sounds better coming out of your mouth.
yeah, I think it's definitely
It's
true
a
that,
status symbol.
and I think it's definitely true that married people tend to look at you in a more favorable light when you're married too. Like if
Even
you're
single people, they're
yeah,
like,
like
"Oh, I look up to you," in a
sometimes,
way.
yeah, if they aspire to one day be married, then
Well, they
then
will
they
aspire because they see you. They look up to you. If they look up to you, boys, and then they see that you're married, you could actually like promote marriage because they look up to you and they might aspire to be married.
well, I definitely think people shouldn't be talking to you about marriage if they're not married themselves.
Okay.
That's true. I mean, I think that's a fundamental fact. Like if you're not, if you, I just really think like you have to kind of, single people giving relationship advice doesn't always make sense because they don't know what they're talking about a lot of times.
Yeah, and all this time, I thought Derrick Jaxn was single and he was giving relationship advice as a married man, and I had no idea.
Yeah, yeah. But I think single
Why would
people.
he hide
I think
that?
a single person would definitely be good at telling you how to hook up, how to get men to want you, how to get
Yeah.
women to want you, because that's because might become the game, right? Like you don't want anything too permanent, but you maybe want a nice 6 month, 1 year situation, then you move on to something else. But I think when you're really talking about that, just the hardcore nitty gritty aspect of picking a person and making it work long term, only a veteran can tell you that. Only
Uh-huh.
somebody who's really like a relationship marriage veteran. And I think that what you were talking about earlier about people looking at you differently when you're married versus like having a girlfriend. Like you're 50 years old and you're talking about my girlfriend.
Yeah.
That I can see that. I can see it, but I don't think that means people don't have the right to do what they want to do. Like I'm a fan for people of people just going for your bliss, being happy. You know, so if you're happy being single, I don't think anybody has a right to tell you like, oh, something's wrong with you because you didn't get married. No, you're just making a choice. As long as it's your choice, you know, and, you know, but when you make a different choice, like if you say, yeah, I really want to be married, and you can't accomplish that, or you can't make your relationships work, that probably means that you need to change something.
Yeah. So eventually, when you get to a certain age and you've never been married, it's like, I need to look at myself and see what's happening. What's
Yeah,
going on with me? What's going on with me that I
yeah,
haven't quite settled down?
yeah.
Or you
So,
have like a series of failed relationships. You start
mm,
to go, oh, okay, I'm the common denominator. What's going on?
well, if you you know,
Same
and I
stuff over and over again.
and I really hate it. It makes me sad when people use that term failed,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes people are in our lives for a reason and a season.
Yeah.
You just, you know, like
Yeah, I agree with that.
maybe it's not failed, maybe it's just it had a termination date, an expiration date.
Yeah, relationships do
Yeah,
sometimes.
and in fact, there are people who even say that marriage should have 5-year renewable contracts.
Oh, so we're gonna renew our vows in 5 years.
Yes, well, I got to think about it. No, but seriously, I think that makes sense. I think as long as people get what they want, I think that's the key idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're getting what, if you're aiming to get what you want, and you're taking advice from a certain person, whoever that person is, I think the question should be, is this person I'm getting advice from capable of helping me get what I want? So if you are a woman looking for a healthy, lasting relationship, and you're listening to somebody who's into this like rah rah, like you know, I'm not going to stand for this, and don't you tolerate that, and don't you let men do this to you and do that to you, and that person sitting there single, um I don't know if that's the best advice, because what that person's going to do is have you go into relationships with a chip on your shoulder,
Yeah.
and you're going to walk in like, oh, I will not
Mm.
tolerate that, I will not tolerate disrespect, and then you're going to feel, I think you're going to feel like, okay, the reason I'm single is because the world won't meet my standard, and I don't know if that's the best way to get to reach your goal.
Yeah, and I think like people like Kevin Samuels is so toxic, the stuff he talks about. And I just found out recently is he was married, like he's been divorced. He's been
Well,
divorced
you know,
twice. You know what I mean? He
yeah,
doesn't
we
have like
don't
he
have we
can't
don't,
show. I'm not to say that I'm gonna like punch holes at him or anything, but I'm just saying like somebody like him. Okay, it didn't work out for you,
well,
so
well
he's
here's
sitting there.
well,
Mm-hmm.
the thing with Kevin Samuels is,
Mm-hmm.
I don't use that term toxic, um because
You
I
don't
don't,
think it is?
well, I don't dislike Kevin. And I told you, and Kevin supported me, so
You
I'm
feel like you
I
have
can
to be.
I believe I'm cool with him. Like I believe that I am, and I insist on being cool with him because he can have his perspective. I may not agree all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I like Kevin Samuels as a person, and I respect the people that follow him because there's something of value they're getting from listening to him. The same way is true with Derrick or anybody else.
Well,
Now,
I mean, let me say something.
yes,
Okay, so what he says is okay. What he says is fine. I think the issue is the contempt that he has, and to have that in the disrespect, that he has toward that I've seen him. I don't really listen to him, but it's the disrespect that I've seen him have. That's the part that I think is like should not be promoted because, he thinks he's better than the people that he's disrespecting. I think it's the disrespect part. And of course he emulates everything that we say you should never do to help somebody, you
well,
know.
I think, well, first of all, Kevin's not a therapist.
It doesn't matter, but you're in a position where you're trying to help someone. And if you're a coach, like I'm certified coach, and they
Mhm.
tell us in our certification, I mean, there's a bunch of different ones, but the one I went through, they tell them like, all the things that he said, that's what they tell you should never do. You know what I mean? You should have some ethics, some moral and personal ethics about yourself and how you relate to people and how you talk to people. It should always be respectful. It should be uplifting. That's the type of coaching, that they train us in. And I'm at an advantage because I'm also a therapist, so some of that stuff I train and I've been trained to do, and I train other people to do it as well.
Well, we know you're trained.
Yes,
So,
but the thing is that when he's just the antithesis of all of the things you're supposed to do to helping other people is a theory.
Well,
you know, and
Jaron
there are
says you need to go
theories.
listen to Kevin. I think,
Maybe I
and I
should.
agree with Jaron. I think you need to go listen, and so that if you're if you're critiquing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I knew just from listening to a couple of his videos that women are gonna have an issue with him in general. A lot of women do.
I thought women liked him. That's why they were calling in.
There are women that like him, but there are a
Okay.
lot of women who don't. Most of the people I hear that get upset about him are mostly women.
I
Some
know a lot of the
some are like
therapists don't
some are,
like him.
right, and that's the thing though. But that's
You
again. But the
know.
point with Kevin is he's not a therapist, right? He is a consultant,
But even
and
in a consultant, when you're
I
dealing with
I don't
clients,
disagree, right?
okay,
I don't disagree.
you should have a certain
Yes, but he has a style.
moral,
But
ethical
sometimes you
thing.
have people that have that what they might consider to be tough love. Like I'm gonna yell at you. You're
Tough love is
like
different.
either you gonna take my advice or fuck you, right?
No, boys, that's not tough. That's
I'm not. I'm not.
disrespect.
Well, it could be.
Tough love is different from
Yeah, but
disrespect.
you know what? Some people respond to that because that's how football coaches are. Football coaches are like, if you can't
Hmm.
run the offense the way, I don't want to debate you on how we're gonna run the offense. If you don't like it, you can go play for another team.
Okay, but football coaches, if they don't have the respect of their teammates, I mean, not the teammates, they don't have respect of the team,
Hmm.
they're not going to have a win anyway.
Well,
So
I
there has to be some level, ultimate level of respect, although they're
hmm
hard on them. So almost like the kids, we discipline the children.
hmm
You know what I mean? We're nice to them, but we're still disciplined. I'm not going to
well,
disrespect the children. I'm going to show
yeah,
discipline.
but
And there's a difference between the two.
yeah, but sometimes I believe we live in a world where there are women that consider men telling them their truth to be disrespectful. And I think that's, when you look at the brighter side of why people might listen to Kevin, he says things that I hear a lot of people say, but they feel that nobody hears them when they say it. So I'm not, he's like maybe what Fox News was for white people. Fox News came into existence because there were millions of people that had conservative values who were not in line with all the liberal stuff, and their voices were not being heard. So they all flocked to Fox News and
Well,
made Fox
Fox
the
News
number one.
became, yeah, I hear what you're saying. Fox News became popular because they rolled back the regulations with
Well,
making sure that you have accuracy in
yeah.
your
Well, the same
news.
thing's true with MSNBC.
Oh
That's what.
yeah, they
That's what.
went the other
Yeah.
direction.
Right. Right.
Oh,
Right. Right. So
you're
you're
right.
right. And so maybe instead of having MSNBC and Fox, you know,
We need
we
to have an
we need to
accuracy
have that middle
network.
ground like we used to have with CBS or NBC, where they would try to give balanced views.
And
And I
it is
think
not
and I
balanced
think
at
that can be
all.
said about Black Love, right? Right. Rather than having
Hmm.
the Kevin Samuel side of things or the Derrick Jackson side, what's happening in the middle? Because that's where the progress gets made.
And it's sad because sometimes in the middle is not as sensational as like the extremes. So the extremes might get, more attention, whereas people who are like
Mhm.
right in the middle, it's just boring.
Well, I would
It's
say
not interesting.
I'm a Black love extremist. Like
Oh,
I'm
look at
extreme.
you.
I'm extreme in basically saying, like, what does it take for us to find a way to get together and to realize all we have is each other?
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
I mean, if black men are destroying black women and black women are destroying black men, then what you're doing is you're destroying the black community. So
Right.
you win the battle, but you're gonna lose the war because ultimately the white man's gonna win.
Look at that.
Yeah, and then you have a whole bunch of Meghan Markles who think black men ain't shit, and a bunch of black men who think black women are garbage, and you have no black community at that point. You
It's
know?
all destroyed.
Yeah, the brother.
The Willie Lynch is done.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's setting in.
that's the thing. That's the damage I think that gets done when people.
Hmm.
That's how wars get started. Wars get started because each side believes that their truth is the only truth, and they're unwilling to kind of even hear other perspectives.
Yeah, and they don't fight their wars. They send other people to fight it for them,
Yeah.
which is why I don't like war. But that's a whole nother topic. Let's not get into
Well,
that.
yeah, yeah. And
We'll talk about that
I
later.
think that there are people that feed into the gender war.
Oh yeah.
They find black trauma. They find women that are traumatized because their daddy wasn't there, and they're mad at the men that they've been engaged with, and they tell them all the things they want to hear. Like the
Hmm.
reason your life is messed up is because men are shit,
Hmm.
right? And then you find men who have daddy issues or mommy issues, and who are mad at women, and then they tell them like, well, the reason that you're mad is because black women are this, black women are that, And
And so it's everybody just pointing a finger at the other person. It's your fault. No, it's your fault. And no one's looking at themselves.
yeah, but you got to look at yourself, and you also got to think about where you want to position yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I hear people when they talk about ratchet men or ratchet women, I don't disagree with them. I think there's some men that are just, I can't imagine trying to have a relationship with some of these dudes, right? And then there are women where it's like, if I see you come in and you possess certain behavior characteristics, I'm gonna run away from you. So what I
Mm-hmm.
realize is you have to position yourself where you have to control what you can control. And what you can control is who you choose to let into your life. So
Mm-hmm.
there's certain types of women that I would never allow into my life. Some women I won't even be friends with. I won't have a conversation with them because I'll peep it out and I won't say nothing. I'll just
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, I need to keep my distance.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to be able to judge that.
Hmm.
You have to be able to, and in order to judge that, you really have to be sensitive to yourself. Like you really have to tune in. You have to tune into yourself and your gut,
Hmm.
and your little spidey senses, so to speak. You have to
Yeah.
be able to tune into that. And there's a lot of people who aren't tuned into themselves. They're not tuned into, and a lot of it is because of trauma and because of all these things. They learn to just ignore what comes to them about other people, and then they let other people into their life and they really shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, we make the choice, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that I think we do have a world right now where personal responsibility is not really encouraged. And I think as a black man, I often feel, like we are targeted as the reason for everybody else's problems. And I refuse to accept that. I'm not the reason for your problems. Seriously, like, so I just don't give a shit. Like when I talk about Cardi B sexualizing little black girls, and Apple Music funding this, right? These white corporations fund the sexualization of little black girls by teaching them how to twerk and shit when they're when they're 4 years old,
Oh,
and
it's
or whatever.
awful.
Right? It's terrible, right? And then they'll turn around and they'll say, like, black men are not protecting little black girls, and look at what R. Kelly did to those little black girls, and black men are okay with that. And I'm like, no, black men didn't do that. Black men did. You did that. You
Mm-hmm.
did that when you started sexualizing that child and having her listen to a stripper rap to her about
Mm-hmm.
selling her vagina for $50. Like, she started listening to that in the second grade. So when she's having sex when she's 11, that's your fault. You did that. You molested that child. You put her in that situation. So I just think that, so I stand up for the men that will basically say, no, you're not going to blame me for all the problems that exist in this world. Stop that. And but I also will stand up for the black women who will say, yeah, like we, like, give us respect. Like, if we behave in a decent way, if we're good people and we're supporting our men, don't let our men crap all over us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, because my heart goes out for, like, a lot of young black women who maybe they were disappointed by their father, maybe they had tough experiences with men, and I think that they should be spoken up for too. I think that this whole idea, like I think one area where is, as much as I can appreciate a lot of what Kevin Samuels might do, I don't like the term simp, like, because it's like, okay, when you talk about simping, what does that mean? Like, what kind are you talking about? Is simping when mean does that mean that you're nice to a woman? Is that when you're simp, or you commit to a woman, or you can have the
Mm-hmm.
capacity to forgive and negotiate with a woman and have a healthy relationship with a woman? Like, or maybe you are empathetic to her situation and you want to be helpful to a woman. Does that make you a simp? I'm not a fan of that type of terminology, because that's no different from those women who say, who make fun of women who say things like, I want to cater to my man, or I want to, what's the word, submit. Like, they'll hear a
Mm-hmm.
woman say, I submit to my man, and you'll hear women that'll be like, oh, you a weak bitch, and you this, what,
Oof.
you lowering your standards.
Okay,
What's
so
wrong with you?
wait, where are you seeing all of this?
Oh,
Are
it's
you
happening.
seeing
It's the
this?
conversation I see online.
Okay, so you're tuned into the online
Yeah, with
conversation.
with the with the so-called gurus
Okay.
who tell you to never lower your standards for anything or anybody. Like, you are the most important thing in the world.
Oh my. Okay.
And I think the number one rule for being able to manage in a relationship is to realize that you're not the most important thing in the world all the time. It
Mm-hmm.
can't always be your way or the highway.
Yeah.
Or
So so this sort of thing is being pushed, you say, in social media.
yeah, I think
You're
that
seeing this.
it's
Mhm.
like, like it's like a gender war. Either the men are women winning or the women are winning. And I don't think
Why does it have to be a battle? Why can't we fight the battle together?
yeah, I
Is that
think
how that's how it should be, right?
yeah, I think black men and black women. I mean, again, we're all that we got,
Mm-hmm.
and so I don't have a lot of patience for like all those stupid Meghan Markle conversations where
Okay,
people were.
what are people saying about Meghan Markle?
Well, people were all excited. Like you had all these people, mostly women, who thought it was some kind of fairy tale because she's marrying some stupid redheaded white boy from across the sea, whose family got billions of dollars by robbing black people, and you think that's a step up? That wasn't an upgrade. That was a downgrade. Like get out of here with that nonsense. That's stupid. And but then you have men that do weird stuff when it comes to black women. Like in L.A., I remember somebody told me about a club where they would not let black women in the club because they said black women are ghetto, and if she's too dark, do not let her in the club.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's terrible, and it's ridiculous. It's superficial. And I'm not a fan of that either. I kind of just really think that it's okay for us to have compassion for each other. Like I think that black women that stick with black men despite our deficiencies and can deal with the fact that maybe we don't have as much money as the redheaded white boy from across the sea. I honor those women. Like I feel like I owe something to them. I owe them protection and support.
And a lot of black women, they will stick with their black man under. They're like, you flawed, but I'm gonna be with you. Now
Yeah,
that I see.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, maybe just because it's my line of work, because I'm
No,
seeing
that's
couples.
true.
I see couples who are like, no, we have problems, but I need to work it out because I love this person. Like I see it all day.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm just like I'm seeing a different. excuse me, I'm seeing a different side
No, that's
than
that's
you are.
that's true. And I think also like I appreciate the men who are able to do that. Just understand, the importance of honoring black women. Sometimes even when they didn't earn the right to be honored, you know, and I think, simultaneously true is for those men, the same way we protect good women, you all got to, I encourage black women to always protect good men and to differentiate,
Yeah.
like between the guys that really are doing things that are kind of reprehensible, disrespecting women, and then the guys who are just good guys who are caught in the crossfire.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of guys who are hurt because they got kids, they want to see their kids. Some bitter
Oh.
woman, is not letting them see his own children, or whatever. Like there's just a lot of men who are really hurting, and so black women are not the only people who are victims of the gender war. A lot of black
Oh,
men.
a lot of black men. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
I think we need to hear that, and I don't know if we hear enough of that because
hmm
you'll see, especially in mainstream media, it's very easy to find spaces where they'll talk about how hard it is for black women to deal with black men and how terrible black men are, but there's no very few spaces where you'll talk about what some black or terrible black women have done to black men. Like there's a reason why society looks very differently at Bill Cosby drugging those women versus Cardi B drugging those men.
hmm
Ain't nobody said
hmm
nothing about Cardi B and what she did.
I just was I just was waiting. Oh my goodness, she gonna go down for this.
Yeah.
The men who were drugged by Cardi B, they really should get together and really, because that's not only is it wrong, it's illegal to do that. That's stealing.
Well, what a lot of men, the difference though is that men are not used to seeing ourselves as victims.
Yeah, I do, and
Like it's not. It
mhm.
just doesn't feel
It's
good.
shameful. Like men have a
Yeah.
lot of shame. Men get abused a lot, and they don't want to talk about it. Because they're embarrassed or they don't want to talk about like women do a lot of psychological and emotional abuse with them and some physical abuse too. And I think it's just awful.
Well, you have.
It's not talked about
Well, the
enough.
problem is though, when you talk about, like if you go back to that word simp.
Yeah.
If you're a black man who talks about being emotionally abused by a woman, guys are gonna call you a simp. They're gonna be like, "Oh, well, you're very simping." Like
Yeah.
that's what you get for dealing with certain types of women. Just like when a black woman goes through horrible things with a black man, there are people. That's why there's some women who believe in the Meghan Markle route, or they watch shows like Scandal
Oh
because
gosh.
because
Yeah.
here this black woman, good for her, she got away from black men because black men are terrible, black men are abusive. So I just kind of think that, um really, I would say this, the best way to kind of summarize the conversation is one thing I've noticed that makes relationships harder than being single, or the great challenge that you have to deal with, is a relationship requires you to have the discipline and the strength to keep turning back to each other.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're single, somebody get on your nerves, you can chew them up, spit them out, and move to the next one.
Oh, you get in your car and drive home.
Right.
You
There you
can't
go.
get in your car. You mad at me, Boyce? You can't get in your car. Where you driving? Where you driving, Boyce?
And
You're
there's
right
times
here.
where I wish I had another apartment. I was like, I want to drive home right
Where
now,
you
but
going? You can't go
I'm
nowhere.
going to the basement.
Where you gonna go to the basement? You still gonna have to come up. You have to come up to get some food.
I know.
You have to see me.
I will go to the basement and shut the door and lock it. Like
Okay,
yeah,
well you can do that,
it's
but
a different
still.
experience. It is a different experience. Yeah, yeah. And I think that for black men and black women, that's the question I think that you have to ask yourself. If you're trying to figure out if you're pro black or not, the question to me becomes, you know, when there is a challenge that you have with other black people, do you turn away or do you turn back toward each other? That's true for any relationship, any friendship, any or whatever. The test of time, the test of durability is when we have a problem, do we turn to each other? Do we turn inward or outward?
And that's repair. So are you gonna do things to repair?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Even in the midst of an argument, like I'm supposed to hold your hand, Boyce. If you get on my nerves, I'm still
Is
supposed
that
to.
like a therapist tip?
It is. It could be.
And
I
you
mean, that's what Gottman talks about.
and you've done that and it works.
It does work.
Yeah, when you hold my hand, and there'll be times I don't want to hold you. Like get off me, don't touch me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it softens. It's like softening. Because you know what that's saying? That's saying, okay, we have this problem, but I still love you.
Mm-hmm.
We have this issue, but I love you and I'm here with you and I'm here to stick with you. It's commitment. It's showing commitment to the other person.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. And it's hard.
It is hard.
It's I mean, you know, that's the thing. Like when you think about family and relationships, you're building institutions. And building is harder than destroying because building takes discipline.
Yeah, it's so easy. It's easier to walk away.
Well, it can be, right?
It can be
But
easier to
I
walk
think
away.
the thing about walking away is that it's easier in the moment. It's great instant gratification.
Yeah.
But then you have the long-term disappointment of
Right.
looking back on your life as nothing but a string of failures.
That's right.
You put energy into 1,000 little situations and you have nothing to show for it. You know, and whereas if you're building and consistently contributing into one thing, and this is the fundamental essence of building black family and black community. The way you build family, you build community is you're putting your energy into that thing that's helping you build, or like becoming an expert on a certain topic. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
constantly turning to that thing, no matter how frustrated, or finishing a college degree. Like all these are the same kinds of energy because each time you're getting frustrated and you want to walk away, right? That's what people do.
Mm-hmm.
People that quit and give up easily, they
Oh,
walk.
and they have big time regrets when they do. They
They
look back.
do.
I see a lot of people in my practice, who just like, God, I regretted that. I regret that I walked away and didn't finish that and
Yeah.
didn't see it through
Yeah.
and didn't put it in. Yeah. Didn't put in the work. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that you're onto something with that. And
Yeah.
that's it. The question is, you know, if you're trying to build in the community, are you turning toward each other?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's true in your relationship, it's true with the community, it's true with anything that you claim to love. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I love sprinting and I'm trying to get to the Olympics and it gets hard, do I turn back? Do I go, you know, when I get upset, do I go to the track or do I just give up? Do I stop running?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and or if I want to finish my degree, if I get frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
do I drop out of school or do I, you know, just go or do I go see my tutor?
Yeah. And this, what we're talking about right now, this is the reality. This is the reality of relationships that I don't think Derrick Jaxn nor Kevin Samuels touched upon.
Mm,
What we're talking about here is the nitty gritty. It's like, what do you do when the stuff gets tough? Are
yeah.
you going to throw that person out? Or are you just going to like totally melt? No, you work through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a simple feel good process. It's not
Uh-huh.
a hit and quit it kind of idea. It's like, it's, it's tough. But anyway,
Yeah, how long have we been talking? It's been a while.
Oh, we've been talking an hour and 23 minutes.
Oh, let's land this plane, Boyce.
Yeah. What's your final thought?
Well, that was my final thought.
Mm.
About the reality of relationships and how it is not necessarily going to be everything that Derrick Jaxn talks about. I agree with you. He goes too far sometimes with his comments, and you're right.
Well, again, I want to reiterate, like my goal is not to beat up on Derrick Jaxn or Kev.
No, not at
And
all.
yeah, I don't.
Derrick Jaxn has sound. He gives sound advice on his platform. Very sound stuff. Stuff I agree. I agree more with him than I do Kevin Samuels, by the way.
Well, yeah,
So,
and
of course.
yeah, I've heard I've heard some of this stuff, and
Hmm.
I think Derek's on the right track. He seems like a good guy,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and I know I just think overall like that stuff with that woman. I just kind of whatever's true. It seems to me that there's some sort of connection and engagement there, which to me doesn't necessarily say he's a bad person. It just says that the temptation's out there. There's probably other situations that are out there too, and I think he has to be mindful of that. And I think overall, it's hard. It's hard to imagine doing what he does and having the experience that he's having and not accepting the fact that at some point it's going to require some level of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
When you have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of power and you become a king like person in your space, being the king does come with the power of being able to do things other people can't do. You can get away with a lot. And the temptation of that is to believe that you can get away with anything. And typically, when a great man gets taken down, it's because he's allowed his power to convince him that he can do whatever he wants,
Mm-hmm.
and that there's not going to be a consequence to bear. When really, eventually, I think you learn that number one, leadership is service, and two, leadership actually requires you to have more discipline than most people because you got
Oh yeah.
more demons hiding around the corner than the average person. So
Oh,
there's
it's not for the weak.
yeah,
It's not for the weak to be in to be in the position that you're in, or someone like a Derrick Jaxn. It's not for the weak.
yeah,
You
yeah,
have got to be strong.
yeah.
Yeah.
Derek has
Or
a
you become strong
yeah.
if you
He's
want to
got a lot
stay.
of yeah. He's got to play.
Yeah.
He's got to play chess, and I'm telling you, these when these chicks got you out here playing checkers,
Oh,
shit, they'd be like checkmate, motherfucker, and that's what Tasha K was doing. Tasha K
yeah.
was like checkmate. I got your ass. And and there's a million other people out there that are looking to do the same thing. So, you know, like who was it? Spice one of my favorite rappers from the Bay.
Okay.
He
What did he
said he used to
say?
have a song. You know what the chorus was?
What?
If the niggas catch you slipping, then your ass is gone.
Oh gosh. Yes, I have heard that song.
You heard it, remember
Of
back in the day? I used
course.
to play that.
Well, I heard it recently when you play it because you play a lot of Spice One.
I like Spice One. I
I
think
know you do.
he's
Everybody knows you like Spice One.
he's one of the great artists. Well, the
One
best.
of my favorite songs he wrote. He wrote one of my favorite
Which
songs.
one?
The one.
Cool it on the corner with the cellular phone.
No.
You could
Which
tell that
one?
the
Dun
East
dun
Bay
dun
was
dun
his
dun
home.
dun. That song.
I don't know
I
that one.
played it. You found it for me and played it.
Really?
I don't remember the name of it. I'm
No,
gonna get the name.
no. I think it was cooling on the corner with the cellular phone. You could tell that the East Bay was his home. More male than the rest of the pushers, cause he got a Tech 9 in the
Wait, how does
bushes.
the
It was a 187 proof. Da don't 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 da don't
Yes, that's the
don't
song. That's it. That's the
don't.
song.
Yeah, that was Spice. That was
Yeah.
Spice One's like top mainstream
That's
hit.
one of my I listened to that in college. All through college I listened to that song.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
yeah,
my jam.
yeah. Well, and the Bay Area has so many talented
I know you
artists.
like the Bay Area
I
artists.
love the Bay. The Bay is like, and I love going. I love giving speeches in the Bay. Like in Oakland, they got some of the blackest black people. Oakland and Brooklyn are, I think, my two top favorite cities to visit. Because
Okay.
Brooklyn has a lot of really smart, very pro-black, aggressive people who ain't scared of nothing. They're very intelligent. Oakland just has like some of the best
Well, they got
activists.
the Black Panther down there. Isn't that where they are? The Black Panther
Yeah,
in
the Black
Oakland?
Panthers came out of Oakland. Yeah,
Yeah, they got that.
yeah,
Oof.
they come
You
through
know
there.
they're gonna be good. Yeah.
Yeah, good people in the Bay Area. Like, much respect. I can't wait till COVID's over because I want to go back.
Mm.
Yeah, I want to visit a lot of those places. I miss seeing people and hugging them, and I don't care after COVID's over. I'm gonna be hugging and shaking hands and all that.
Oh no.
I know. I guess I got to take my vitamin C.
Take your vitamins. Yeah. D
Yeah,
and C and all of those.
so true.
All
Okay.
right, let's land
By
this
the way,
plane.
Deborah the model is from Oakland.
That's what's up.
She said Oakland in the house.
That's right.
Anyway,
Oakland.
all right. So if y'all could do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button, and the blacklovechannel.com is right there on the screen. So if you want to hear us, this is a Saturday night, so sometimes we just let loose and just have conversations about whatever. And so if you are into that kind of thing, feel free to follow the blacklovechannel.com. And I also be remiss not to mention that Alicia is a licensed relationship therapist and a full professor of social work. And so if you want to learn more about some of the stuff she does on her platform, it's coachingwithdralicia.com. You can follow her on Instagram at coachingwithdralicia. So anyway, y'all take care, and thanks for putting up with me. I know y'all probably didn't expect Spice One to come up in the conversation, but shout out to Spiggity One. He's one of the great rappers of all time, and I'm not gonna change my opinion on that ever. So take care, guys. I'll see you soon. Have a good night.